It was 2:45 a.m. when Sarah's phone rang. The sound pierced through the silence of her apartment, startling her awake. Groggy and annoyed, she squinted at the caller ID. It was an unknown number. She hesitated, but eventually answered, her curiosity getting the better of her. "Hello?" she mumbled. "Help me," a woman's voice whispered, barely audible, but filled with desperation. Sarah sat up, suddenly wide awake. "Who is this?" she asked, but the line went dead. Her heart raced as she stared at the phone. The voice had sounded so real, so close. She shrugged it off as a prank call, but sleep was now impossible. She got up and made herself a cup of tea, hoping to calm her nerves. Just as she was about to take a sip, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was a video file from the same unknown number. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The video was dark and shaky, but she could make out a woman tied to a chair, struggling and crying. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The woman in the video had a striking resemblance to her. Her long, dark hair, her green eyes. It was uncanny. Suddenly, the woman in the video stopped struggling and stared directly into the camera. "Sarah, please help me, he's coming back," she whispered. Panic surged through Sarah. How did this woman know her name, and who was she? Her mind raced with questions, but there were no answers. She dialed 911, her hands shaking. The operator answered, and Sarah quickly explained the situation. The operator tried to calm her down, promising to send an officer to her address immediately. As she waited, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak and groan of her apartment seemed amplified, the shadows playing tricks on her mind. Finally, there was a knock at the door. She ran to open it, relief flooding her as she saw the police officer standing there. "Come in, please," she said, her voice trembling. The officer entered, looking around cautiously. "Can you show me the video?" he asked. She handed him her phone, and he watched the video with a furrowed brow. "This is disturbing," he said, his tone grave. "We need to find out who sent this." Just then, Sarah's phone rang again. The unknown number. She put it on speaker, and the same whisper filled the room. "He's here." The officer drew his gun, motioning for Sarah to stay behind him. They moved cautiously through the apartment, checking every room. Everything seemed normal until they reached the basement door. The officer signaled for her to stay back as he descended the stairs. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She could hear him moving around below, the creak of the wooden steps echoing ominously. Suddenly, there was a thud, followed by a chilling silence. "Officer?" Sarah called out, but there was no response. Against the better judgment, she crept down the stairs. The basement was pitch black, save for a silver of moonlight filtering through a small window. She fumbled for the light switch and flipped it on. The sight that greeted her froze her blood. The officer lay on the floor, unconscious or worse. Standing over him was a figure shrouded in darkness, its face obscured by a hood. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, her voice barely a whisper. The figure stepped forward, and she finally saw his face. It was the spitting image of the man from her nightmares, the one who had haunted her dreams for years. "You should have answered sooner," he said, his voice dripping with malice. Sarah backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The man advanced, raising a glinting knife. Her screams echoed through the basement as darkness consumed her. The next morning, The police found Sarah's phone on the basement floor. The video, still playing. The woman tied to the chair was no longer struggling. Her lifeless eyes stared into the camera, mirroring the horror that had unfolded in Sarah's apartment. And in the corner of the screen, barely visible, was a shadowy figure, watching, waiting. As the video ends, a chilling message flashes on the screen. If you get a call from an unknown number, think twice before answering. I hope you enjoyed this creepy tale. Remember, while this story is fictional, always be cautious of unknown numbers and trust your instincts. If you like this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let me know in the comments if you want more stories like this. And as always, stay safe out there.